Hello, hello. How we doing? Happy holidays, don't you? What's up, what's up? Hi, hi, hi. Oh, no audio. Thank you! This looks so cute already. I'm so excited. I didn't know there was a demo for this one. I just kind of got it. I'm like, it looks cute. I'm getting it. So I gotta move myself, otherwise I'm too far in the corner. There we go. Hi, Aunt Just. How are you doing? How is everybody's Christmas?
You mother.
Yeah. Wow! Anyway. Oh, I gotta move down a little bit actually. How's everybody's Christmas? I had so much family over. I was so busy, and I think once everyone left, I crashed. Everyone left, and then I got dragged into a game of Monopoly, which I absolutely slayed at. I won with like 6,600 plus money and half of the board in assets because I liquidated everyone else into my, well, like 2 other people into my things. That was the best game of Monopoly. I started and everyone was like, "You're so poor," because I couldn't buy any stuff. I'm like, you don't get the plays here. Make Nutri-Curious and Trigger the Foma.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end the year being mean now. Yeah, you have 5 days to be mean. Santa's not counting. These 5 days don't matter. If the game has really good music, I'm gonna turn mine off. But yet to see. This is just the menu. It's so cute. It's so cute.
Stinky. What the fuck?
Would a stinky person win Monopoly? I don't think so. How we doing, Murdoch? Family didn't do anything. Kind of glad Christmas is over for the year. I'm glad it's over because my family did so much. I'm working, so it sucks. I also worked. It's Boxing Day. I worked, but I got that good public holiday hours though. I think it's exclusively stinky people who win Monopoly. What the fuck? That's so rude.
Hi, Chris.
I worked Christmas. It was good Christmas music, but also the demo didn't limit. The demo didn't limit frames? Oh my god, I think the full game has better settings, because the full game, like, if I went into the settings here, it says like 60 FPS, and then depending on what you change, it changes the... It looks like it's limiting it at 60. Thank god. Say that as a fellow stinky Monopoly champion? Okay. Okay. I see how it is. Me and you are not the same. Alright? I owned that entire board. Which I think is how you win Monopoly. So we are the same, because that's the win condition. But we're not the same. Hi Goose! Thank you for the daily. Soren streaming this economy? What the hell? I streamed like last week. I think. I don't remember. Did I? Chris, when was the last time I streamed? You were probably there. Wow, last time I streamed was 5 days ago. I pulled up my thing on the side to check. Just remember Christmas I sent you yesterday? I don't know. I was busy yesterday. I did so much yesterday. Oh my god. I woke up and immediately got into like preparing stuff, and then people came over and we ate and we did presents and then drank and we were drunk and then play board game and then everyone went home and then a crash. Something I'm suspecting you changed in global settings. Oh my god. What? I'm way more advanced than I thought I was. My NVIDIA settings. I don't know when the last time I looked at my NVIDIA app. Tracking is awesome, so no complaints.
Hey, let's go.
I don't think I limited because my PC and my laptop are two different things. I do tracking on my laptop. I've touched nothing on my laptop. Kind of point, I fixed my sleep because I want to spend time with my wife before my death in Feb. Is that when you start? But your graphics drivers are all in crumbly now? They probably are. I'm gonna be so real. I need someone to come, like, clean my PC. And, like, not physically clean, because I do that. I get a little air spray and dust up there. But I need someone to, like, empty all of the random shit that I have on here. Because it's probably a lot. I need someone to come over and update all of my drivers. I need someone to, like... There's a lot. I just keep downloading stuff. I download game I play, and then I delete it. And there's probably so many old things. Like, Top to it, she now knows how to be. I'm doing better than God! At least I plug my HDMI cords into the correct place. To be fair, the PC has like a little arrow on it. It was like, plug your shit in here. Although my setup's weird. Everything's analog, everything's plugged into everywhere else. I think the only thing that isn't analog and works off like Wi-Fi is the tracking, which is like my phone to my PC, which I could USB cable, but I've run out of USB ports because everything else is plugged into it because it's all analog. Anyway, game time. That's an understandable mistake. I don't think it is. I remember Cup saying that when she came over to my house, like we brought her PC over to mine when she was house sitting for me for like a month. And I plugged her PC in to the correct place. And she's like, whoa, it's working so good. And she brought it back. And she was like, oh, is that why it wasn't working? Like, as good? Because I plugged it into the wrong place. It's like, yeah.
You hear that, Bean? Only 3 days away.
I'm so confused. What does the title mean?
You
Oh,
excited?
have you never seen this? Wait, can I post this cutscene? I don't think I can post this cutscene. Hold on. Cutscene time. Let me post my music actually so we can watch this. Ooh. Oh my god, the talking was part of the game. I didn't know we were gonna be in a cutscene as soon as I started. I'm so sorry. Crossroads, because I know when I start this job, no streams cause fly in, fly out. I'll work this job till I'm recalled to my host railway, then I'm called back on call. So no stream then anyway. So Goose will must.
Hey, buddy.
No!
Could you help me out with something in the barn real quick?
It's cold.
It'll be quick. Come on.
That's so unfortunate. I'm so sorry. We're gonna miss you.
I thought you were gonna do that this year.
Well, I'm pretty useless at the moment, unfortunately, but I don't know, maybe you should do it this year.
But I don't wanna.
Come on, it's important. The people love them.
They're just lights.
He's on crutches.
Okay, just do one.
Fine. Just one. and then I'm going inside.
Great, yeah. Anywhere works. You're the artist.
Come on, Bean, we got the. Oh, throw decoration. Oh shit. Oh, me.
Is this good enough?
Come on, throw a couple more.
I thought you said just one.
Did I?
It's so bright. The bloom, all the way back there, and then here, and then back there again, and then up here. Oh, how long is
Oh,
this?
this is looking great. Let me know when you're done.
Oh, is it infinite long? Nice. I don't think they should have given me this power. It's so bright. It's so bright. It's so... Wait, comment. Let me show you the thing. Hold on. I didn't get enough. That was so loud. I'm so sorry. How's this? I didn't get no sleep because of y'all. Y'all not gonna get no sleep because of me. I didn't get. There you go. Put it on the ground so we can trip over it? Yeah! That's so true. Stern has been given the power of light. For once! I really just go, wait, we just go forever. Anyway. It's a wholesome game. It's a wholesome game. No! Get your mind out of the gutter. Guys, it's a wholesome game. Stop looking at it. I see you looking at it. Stop. You know what? No more us. You looked at it too much. I'm censoring this. You failed your father. Yes. Also, Goose, I'm so sorry that Clarissa project is done. You put so much into that. That vid, yeah, that vid. Working a video that's literally on my family farm shooting a picture of Goose. Flying out of my middle street. No! That's so sad. Souls consumed are becoming light. Yeah, they are. This time they are. You know what? During Christmas you get a freebie. I trust you now because you say it's a wholesome thing. Do you see how cute it is? It is wholesome. Like, look, I've also never played it. I need to figure out how to, like, cover his head. Maybe up here. I see him peeking still. Okay, hold on. We got it? Oh, yes. That's the move. Up here. Alright, we've censored. Really nice not feeling of life to see his face with No, the arrow he took to the knee! Did he ever tell you how he was an adventurer though before he took an arrow to that knee? I think now it's just a thought. I think without this move. I think so.
Wow,
yes.
Bane. I love what you've done with the place. Oh, but now look at the house. It looks so lonely without any string lights. Why don't you throw up a few around the yard?
What is this magic? Where am I? Gang? Oh, okay. Here. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, looks like you got a straggler. You might want to snip that one. There you go. Alright, I'll be over by the house. And hey, you know, put up as much or as little as you
Is
want. There's no right way to do it. I want to see what looks good to you.
That's too many light bulbs. It's never enough. Look, we can put some rainbow ones here too. See? Ta-da. Oh shit, I can jump. Alright. Why do I need to run in this game? How do I look around? Ooh. Alright guys, if you right click. Okay. I'm getting so into this. I'm being organized. Yeah, I'm being organized. What do you mean I'm being organized? This is You see this? You see how organized inside here is? Look at that, they're in rows. Look at that. Do you think someone off their rockers could do that? No. Oh, I need to run. Oh, there we go. Yeah! Yes! No, wait, I want to look here. Thank you. Oh, the music is just like Christmas music. That's so cute. Do you see this? Do you see how organized this is? We've got haters and doubters in the comments. I feel vaguely like the game wants me to undo. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Now start the chase scene. Exactly. Like, what the hell? Oh. Cute. Oh! Oh shit! Fam! This is... Oh, we can turn this into an FPS now. Look, I can aim, I can scope, but then I can also do... Look at that. Gunfire reborn! Yeah! While throwing... Drag the mouse to adjust attention and rotation. Oh shit. Okay, hold on. I gotta go back to this. So I can adjust the tension. Oh. Tense all the way up. There we go. Yeah! Can I... Is there full damage in this game? Well, doesn't seem like it. Oh, there's money up there. Guys! Okay, aim back up here. Make it tight. There we go. Aim here. Make that shit loose. Oh, shit, fuck. Loose. Right. And then, oh, wait! What's the undo button set? Okay, here. And make it tight. There we go. Look at that. Yeah! Thank you for the hydrate. Oh, you know what, Unjust? I have lychee sake that I have a giant mug of right now. That's what I'm going to be hydrating from. That's really good.
Hey, Beanie Bean.
Hi.
Aww, that was cute. Okay, let me back up here. I need this money. That doesn't sound very hydrating. It is. Okay, to be fair, it's not like straight. It's not straight lychee sake. I could not do that to myself. It's is that correct? Okay. It's lychee sake with lychee syrup and then 7-Up, so like lemonade. And honey citrus tea. So it's also got honey and lemon and citrus in it. It was really good. This is looking. Oh, that's cute. I've never decorated my house for Christmas, so I don't know what the go is for this. Oh my god, we have candy canes. Hold on, hold on. How do I get my mouse back? Wait, how do I click on this? Oh. Clearly I need not lights. I really want that. It's V. Oh shit, okay. Wait, I need my mouse back! So pressing tab changes it. Give me my mouse! I want to click on the candy cane! Guys, it's fine. If I... Fuck. I thought I could do it without a smell. Tips and controls. Yeah. It's not E. I'm using my arrow keys! Look! This is what happens! Do I press tab and use them? So pressing tab does this. Okay, press tab and then use them. No. Press... Okay, V just makes it... what I have equipped. How the hell did I get my mouse up earlier? Yeah, wait. Oh! You're so right! I will never tell you again. My apologies. Oh, can I not? Put it on. Okay, hold on. We'll just put it on the ground. Oh shit. Oh, we can make them big. Oh wait, I have a plan, I have a plan. Alright. So a small one. And kind of biggish one. And then really big one, but facing that way. Okay. And then like, ooh. More smallish ones here. Like that. And then like... What the hell just happened? Why is it like... You didn't use the arrow keys? I used West. My bad. Okay, wait, this needs precision. Okay. Did I not just throw it onto a candy cane before? It's okay. It's fine. Make it really small and facing this way. I... Ah! What the hell? When I want it to be on the candy cane, it's not. When I don't want it to be, it is. Okay. Look at... What the hell? How do I get it on there before? Anyway, here's your candy cane nativity scene. I'm doing something inappropriate. It's not inappropriate. Look, there's candy cane Jesus, candy cane Mary, candy cane Carpenter. What is his dad's name? I can't remember. Oh my god, I'm blanking. What's his dad's name? Candy cane Carpenter. Here's the three wise men. And then there's like a donkey. Joseph. Yeah. Candy cane Joseph. The three wise men. And then a donkey. You see, it's got 4 legs. It's a Christmas miracle. Look, little baby candy cane. My god, record my consent segment. Peasant mode, please. Okay, awesome. We can candy cane up Dad's car. You've right. I'm so sorry that I couldn't remember Joseph. It's been so long since I've looked at a Bible. Precisely, it's been since like high school. And then tab. I want the rainbow ones. And I really hope no one needs to drive. Awesome! You fiend! What? This is the most cursed thing I've seen. How could you say that about Christmas? You know what? You're the most cursed thing I've ever seen. How's that feel? Huh? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry! That was kinda unjust, I might say. True. Could I like cook the power lines? Dude, cut your trees. This is not safe. I would not be surprised if like the power went out. Oh, money. During Christmas with all of these lights, like, look. There's so many trees touching the power line. Sorry. My pursuit for riches. Oh no, I'm too far away. Am I too far away? Or is there a hitbox there? Oh, there's just a hitbox there. Okay. Random. Sick. There we go. Chris isn't a mod? Chris isn't a mod. Chris is like a bot. Yeah, I think I accidentally did something because I was like fucking around. Whenever Chris talks, he has the bot symbol next to him. Now, why is it on the tree like that? Why is it on the tree like that? Who, not me. I didn't do that. Who did that? Every single little fucking glimpse into this garage. I'm going back to the lurk. Oh, good. Thank you for dropping by. Oh, this is so satisfyingly like blue, green, red. Mama. That garage is what hell looks like for someone out there. Yeah, for the Grinch. Okay, I feel like I didn't go into first person for this. This is aim training. In which I'm going way too far. It's fine, I'm censoring what's inside from you. By making the outside worse. I'm really amazed by the game's like physics. though. The fuck? Do you not derive joy from this experience? Thank you for clarifying. So satisfying though, because look, there's like, you've got the clear line of blue, clear line of green, and then the red's in the middle. Is it not? Look at that. Wow. Now just forget that there's anything behind there. You know? Just... wow. See? Isn't it so nice out here? I could cover the entire ground. It is pretty entertaining, though. I have suspicions of my own sanity. That means you're not a psychopath. The psychopaths don't question you, right? I'm not a doctor. I can't say shit about it. Anyway. Are we done decorating? Yes.
Can I go inside now?
Oh, look at this. I mean, you're a natural.
Better than
They
you.
didn't show my garage.
No chance. But how would you feel about taking over for me? Throwing up some lights around town the next few days? I know folks around here would really appreciate it.
But it's the weekend.
Alright, how about this? You put up lights around town, and I'll get you the bike.
I thought you said bikes were illegal for 7-year-olds.
That was a lie. You caught me in a bad moment.
You promise? For real this time.
I promise. But you gotta get the whole town.
The whole town?
That's me as a parent. It's a lie, you caught me at a bad moment. Hi, Janix! Did you know that bikes are illegal for 7-year-olds?
I think there's one on this shelf. Could you grab me that stool? Thank you. Okay. It's still too high.
How we doing? How we doing?
Thank you. Okay. Ah, jeez, who put
That's
this up here?
crazy.
Okay, let's,
Yeah, that
you
was
know
a
what?
lie.
Let's
Sorry,
try
you caught me at a
stacking
bad
the
moment.
stool on the chair. Okay, yeah, okay.
I broke the lure so many times.
Almost got it.
I
Almost
also
got it.
broke the lure so
No,
many
I'm good.
times.
I almost got
Wait,
it.
no, I didn't.
Almost got it.
Because only bikes are illegal. I had a tricycle.
I got I got it. I figured you could start over on Yellowwood Drive, you know, nice and easy, just down the hill. You can take the back way.
Ooh. Actually, I didn't have a tricycle. I had like a... What the hell is 5? What's 5? Uno, dos, tres. Okay, 6 is... 8 is oct. 6 is sept. It's 5. Anyway, my bike had 5 wheels. It turns out she had a car. Real!
Why?
All right, buddy, you got this. Be safe, and hey, I'm proud of you for doing this. This is a big move. I think you're really gonna like it.
I don't think
It had
so.
5 wheels?
Do a
Yeah,
good
I had
job and they
2
might
at the
tip.
front,
Okay.
Be back before
and
eight.
then the back
Okay.
had
Stay
3.
warm out there.
Okay.
All right.
That was like my training bike. And then they took 3 of the wheels away, and then it just became a normal bicycle. It's like a tricycle with training wheels. No, because a tricycle is just 1 at the front and 2 at the back, right? Mine had 2 at the front and 3 at the back. Explain. Explain that to me. Homies, I don't know what type of bike it was. It was really easy to ride. Except for the fact that my mom was really scared that I would injure myself if I fell while riding the bicycle. So I rid on grass with 5 wheels, which made it really hard. So I think I fell more than I would have if I was just riding around on concrete. Where am I? So, supposed to be moving around like this? Wait, was that one music video where he's sliding around? Guys, I don't think I was supposed to be in cinematic mode for this. Oh. Okay, we have like movement. I didn't break the game. I did not break the fucking game. Third person. There we go. Oh my god, he's so cute. Is there... Oh, I see money. I see money. Doodle a pentacycle, and the internet did not disappoint. Oh my god, things came up. Hold on. Pentacycle. Now, what in the... Now, who is this? What is this? It looks like an onion. It looks like Cinderella's carriage. What is this? Why is there so many baskets? It's got 2 wheels in the front, 2 in the back, and a giant wheel in the middle. Okay, it was not like this. I think it was indeed just a bicycle that had training wheels on. And like fucked up training wheels in the front or something. It was more like that. Except the wheels were together. These ones were like that. I don't know. I think it was just a fucked up bike. That looks so funny. If a police officer comes to me riding this, I'm not trusting them. I think you're lying about your 5-wheeled cycle. Of all the things to lie about. 5 wheels? I do indeed think it was just a fucked up training bike. Because the back was definitely like training wheels. I don't know what happened to the front. Whatever happened to that bike is between the bike and God. Ooh.
Oh, hey, Bean! What a lovely surprise.
My dad's
Hi,
making
Nora.
these lights around the town. Would you like some?
Oh, I would love that. Look at you taking up the mantle.
Ah, it's so cute. Meet your cheer meter. Decorate the level to increase the cheer and spread holiday spirit through Bellflower. Fill up the meter, progress the story, and unlock new levels. Let's go. Okay, I got my things back. What is my most like? Okay, that's wait. Who set the tension like that? It's still really low. We run with it. I want to get all of these coins, but I really want to get the lamppost. Is underneath this car? Hello? Can we tense above the car? Okay. There we go. Tension. Awesome. Oh, Bean is so cute. Look at him go. Taking up his dad's mantle of lighting everything up. Honestly, hanging the lights is not bad. The real sloth is taking them down. Was it like something I just sent you in Discord? Hold on. Oh! Yeah, kinda. There was no seat in the front. There was like that basket. Although it wasn't metal. It was just like a wicker basket. Like one of the cute ones. Man, that brings back memories. Really weird concept. Is it? It looks very stable. I can understand why someone would set their child upon it. Fair enough. Did you ever learn how to ride a bike with the thing? Like properly? Or were you just put out into the world, you know? Because there are some people I've met, I'm like, oh, like, how'd you learn how to ride a bike? And they were like, oh, they just put me on a bike and then push me. I was like, that's crazy. Or they'd be like, oh yeah, like dad would hold the back of it and then run along. Can we please stop moving the ground? Oh shit. Okay, hold on. I missed it. Hold on. Okay, there we go. I know I learned how to ride a bike because I can, but I have no memories of actual learning. Unjust? What? What? And you were like, I think you're lying about your weird bike. At least I learned with a bike. What do you mean? Oh, Bean, you're so short. You're so cute. Okay, there's money there. What is this glow? That's the fire inside. I see cash. There's a lot missing. It's an ongoing issue. Oh. Well, I hope it's something that you can solve or live with. Hold on. Put that there. Put that there. Oh my god, I can reach. Okay. Make it saggy. Put this one here. Make it tight. Yeah. Oh wait, it's wrapping around the tree from the back. Everything's gonna be from the back. I gotta go to the front. Yeah, see, all of that was at the back. There we go. Nice. My Christmas tree is at half. Oh, hello.
Little kid run up to the porch.
Hello.
You are so cool. And also very cold for a turtle outside. And your house is also open. And you have money. Can I?
I love
Oh, I
it.
can.
I absolutely love it. Thank you.
Good luck navigating. He did set loose. I feel like this really feels like what it would be like to be a child and have these abilities. You just go wild in someone's house like, yeah, you want lights? You want lights, do you? How's that? Oh, I accidentally put some outside. How's that? And no lights on the front of your house at all.
Well, hey there, kiddo. What's going on? How are you?
I can't believe you're stealing money from these folks. You think you can catch me? Can't catch me, I'm too fast. Oh. Hello. Yeah. I might as well put some in here. This is the exact reason you're not allowed to leave children alone. That's so... Like, all of the people who are like, oh, I left them alone for 1 second, then come back and they're covered in peanut butter. There's a treasure chest. Can I interact with it? No. Okay, back to it. I'm so sorry if anyone has motion sickness. Anyway. Ooh, very nice. Big through the bottom. Anyway. I reached my chair, but I really gotta decorate everybody's house. See, they left it open for me, and there's probably money inside. As payment, it's not stealing.
Hi, Bean. Hi.
Hi! Oh my god, you're so
Keep
cute!
up the good work.
Thank you, Ruby.
Hi, Bean.
Hello.
Hi, Trip.
Oh, you coming to get my house?
Yep.
All right, nice work, Bean. I want you to try to make my house look as bright as possible so that Santa can find it, because I asked him for a really expensive gift this year. Oh, you coming to get my house?
Hey, he said as bright as possible. Okay? It feels like I'm being egged on. I can't go up there. Alright. Do you think my rainbow strings or my white ones are brighter? Throw these up into the void where I cannot go. There's something really familiar with them? What is it? What's wrong? Ah, Station Post Direct, thank you! Hi, Neri! Look away if you have motion sickness! Anna! Are you gonna be streaming later? I heard you're gonna be streaming later. Are you doing Elden Ring or are you doing Rivals? This is the most festive house I've ever seen. He asked me to make it as bright as possible so that Santa could see him. Because apparently he asked for a really expensive gift this year, so I'm simply obeying the request. It's not my fault. Can't play right. Hey, they can free play for you. You know, always an option. They did for Nene. You know what? I was gonna go around the door, but you honestly don't need it. It's closed. Thank you for doing the shout out. Yeah, Elden Ring! And you already made the character? Oh, okay. Next time. Yeah. You know what? If they let you play quick play with them, I'll also play it. Not this time because it's not downloaded, but next time. If it's bright enough, it'll glow out the windows, okay? I stream with 8 personal characters.
Hi, Bean.
How long did you spend on it? I think that happened when I was playing Elden Ring. I played it with Cozy ages ago. A little bit. I had to make a new character for it because it was for a co-op. And I streamed early. And then spent like the first 3 hours of my stream making the character before he got on. But no, people love character creation, customization. The sliders are really good. Especially if you let them like create things as well. Like chatbots on eyes is very funny to do. Load up a game and spend so long placing so many lights that you don't actually progress. I would say I've done that in Sims, but the entire point of Sims is to build a house. It's not to take care of the dude. You know? Like, he just supplies me money so that I can build more house. And I gotta make sure that he succeeds in his career so I can have more money to build more house. That's it. It's just a more complicated house build.
Hi.
Alright guys, we're almost there. Oh my god, the Christmas tree doesn't even have lights on it. I got you. Also prefer building in The Sims. Real and true on Just Me and You are so alike. Like who Sims in The Sims unless you have like every single mod and expansion pack, which will cost you an arm and a goddamn leg. Literally said the opposite. No, I didn't say anything. I haven't tried this in. Oh, it's so fun. If you make it fun, you have to make it fun for yourself. You gotta find some niche to make it fun for yourself. Guys, the twinkling of the lights is so pretty. It's like when you walk on amethyst in Minecraft. Season 1 Stranger Things fantastic. You can't blame me for it. Look, hold on.
Hi,
Look,
Bean.
look.
Hi.
Alright, nice work, Bean. I want you to try to make my house look as bright as possible so that Santa can find it because I asked him for a really expensive gift this year.
You hear that? Alright, Bean, I want you to make my house as bright as possible. As bright as possible! Yeah, look at it glow. Awesome. Okay, we can go up now. You know what, Unjust, you had a really good point. That Santa sees it from here. So... Oh, shit. I want third person mode. There we go. So we're also gonna do the same to his roof. So it's therefore you turned into choice players looking for little fuckers. Exactly! It's not me, it was an express request. To make the house as bright as possible. I think I will switch to just the white lights. You officially unhinged. Game gave me infinite string, okay? This is what happens when game gives you infinite resource. I'm also missing the roof, so it's going off. Maybe that was his really expensive gift, was to go on a sweet experience to a horrible place. Hey, if these lights stop blinking and trying to communicate, we are not gonna know what the hell they are trying to say. Looks like Christmas threw up all over and inside this house. I think that was the plan. Bro's gonna look at his electricity bill and be like, I have made mistakes. In this economy? For sure. I don't even know what these are connecting to. Hey, I think this is starting to have an impact on my game. Maybe I'm being influenced too much by like, let's game it out, you know? I spent 100 hours throwing lights. Hey guys, I think this is starting to have an impact on my game. It looks so pretty though. Exactly, hold on. If we like go down here. Okay, let me enter. It's not that. First person mode. Wow. And look inside as well. Wow. If you look straight up, it's like, you know, when you look at a road map of a city. Yeah. Wow. My single rainbow light. Wow. Oh, actually, it's not running too bad. Yeah. Oh, you wouldn't even know. Ignore that side. You wouldn't even know. Look, we do this, and then we say, yeah, Santa can see your house. Ask for bread and was given a cluster of stars. That's how we do. That's how we do. You wouldn't even know. That looks so cool over there. all the little twinkling lights. And then also whatever's happening inside. See, if I can see it, Santa can see it. Right? Surely. Right? I didn't even do the floor. At least you have the floor. Oh wait, oh wait, oh wait, oh wait. I forgot.
Hi. Hi.
Okay, maybe we have to like cookie crumb. Like Santa follow the candy canes. See? Look at that. And then lead it directly
Hi, Bean.
to Trip. Because Triple really wants that present. There we go. See? I think we've done a great job here. Alright, where are we off to next? Midtown. So that was just Yellowwood Drive. Now we're in a town. 100%. Thank you. Oh. There's no one to talk to. We're straight into it. That many lights, I would start sneezing just before I even walk through the door. That means it's bright enough for Santa, right? Surely. Oh, oh wait, hold on. Okay. Why am I behind a fence? Oh shit. What oh. Oh. Oh, those lights aren't on the house? Oh. Ooh. I don't think I can I don't think I can do cinematic mode. Mistakes were made. I was trying to make it nice. Oops. Well, I don't know if you can say this is nice. I was just trying to line the house. My bad, fam. I wish there was a way to hide the cables. Kid, I think I'm gonna pass out. Oh, have a good one. I hope you rest well. Or not my choice. And thank you for dropping by. It was really nice seeing you. Hope the rest of your holidays go well. Thank you! You too. Merry Christmas! Happy holidays! Have a good one! Hopefully I see you before next year. Weather really depends on if I stream or not, huh? Yeah, cannot guarantee. Have a good one, Unjust! Good night! Yes, money. Why did that go so far? Did I accidentally throw this somewhere heinous? Oh my god. What is this? Okay, that's a water tower. That's a smokestack. What era are we in? Maybe the pentacle is correct. I mean, to be fair, Bean is like, by lore, younger than 7. Seem accurate for a 7-year-old's decorating skills. I feel like Martha May. Is it Martha May? Who is it? In Grinch That Stole Christmas, she has like a Christmas light machine gun. Was it her or was it her neighbor or something? Who was like trying to one up her? Because Martha May, who always has the best lights. Hold on, I saw money. Yeah! Yes! It was like a full machine gun Gatling gun with like Christmas lights in it. That was good. Saw a TikTok on cosplay. Cosplay on TikTok. With it. And they had the full like present wrapped gun with lights in it. Oh, it was so good. Yeah. Honestly, I love all of the Martha May cosplays that come around Christmas. They're all so slay. And they all look so good. And sometimes I'm like, I want to be that. But then I remember that I'm lazy. Oh my god. I don't know where that went. Why did that go so far? Oh, I see money. Let's go. What is this money for? Why am I collecting it? I just want it. Oh. Money, money, money. I feel like Mr. Krabs. Money, 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 money everywhere. I love the music though. It's really subtle, Christmas song version like of stuff. Oh, this place is massive. Holy. I don't think I was supposed to put that many lights on the first building. Okay, it doesn't go any further. Oh, it's the pub. Sorry, we're too young. We can't go there. That's why it's blocked. Who are you? Can I talk to you? I can't. Okay, goodbye. Warning hole.
Whoa.
Oh my god. Where are we? Did you find this game? It's so cute. I saw a lot of it on TikTok, actually. Ooh, flashbang. Okay, maybe I do need my lights. What's happening here? Okay, there we go. It actually lights up a bit. Okay, wait, that's the way out. That's the way out. Go back here. Can't go there. Do you want a little chair in your empty Christmas tree? I say,
Oh, hey,
not
I
waiting
didn't
for a
think you'd come
response.
down here. Oh, whatever. Yes. But you did. And now you're gonna decorate, right? I'm so excited.
Hi.
Yeah!
Hey, make yourself at home, okay? Sorry, the place is a mess. I'm not used to having guests.
Oh my god, she's just a rat in this sewer. And he has so much money for me to steal. You know what? You
Oh,
get
man, that
Rainbow.
looks great.
You're so welcome. Well, I like you. You get normal Christmas lights. Oh, hello. You can't escape from me. Any secrets over here? Nah. Anything in that? Nah. Okay. And ahoy, here we go. Ooh, where am I? On the other side. This can open, right? Okay, sweet. I was worried I was gonna be stuck. Okay. That part of the town where all of the industrial stuff happens, that gets lights. Him down here, Squeaky, Mr. Rat Boy, he gets lights. This bird that refuses to talk to me, you get lights. Alright? No one else. That's it. I'm moving on. We're done. The city has been decorated. I'm in cinematic mode again. Why would you do this to me? Okay, there we go. Third person. Whoa. These places look like they're getting so big. Like, this is massive. This is massive. Okay. While we're still in the middle of an ad break, I am going to quickly rush to the bathroom and come. BRB. Play some music for you? Okay. BRB. Daily? Sorry that I miss you. How you doing? If you're still here, how was your Christmas? I might keep on playing my music. Ah, thank you for the hydrate. Welcome back, thank you. Take another big swig of my lychee sake. Merry Christmas! Yeah! We're playing Light the Town. Light up the town. In which we do this. And light up the town. Yeah! Oh, I missed. Hop! See. What the hell? Araras, cute one as person to chat. Opportunity to Araras present to you. Thank you. We'll do cute one. Let me turn down the music for you. Arara. There you are. Yeah. We got a cute one. You know what? I do appreciate the classic Araras. But it's so funny to be like, Ara Ara, that's part of a Russian mafia or something. Hey. How are you? Welcome, how you doing? What have you been up to? You also streaming for this, right? How was your Christmas, by the way? Can we get Christmas Miracle and 2-for-1 specials? Stella didn't like Ara Ara.
Hi. Hello.
Wait. Let me up here. What money? Yes! Oh,
I
hello.
want to go ice skating.
Wants to go ice skating, wants to go to festival. Oh, Noelle is so cute. Look at this. Oh, I see money. Yes. I don't think there's anything back there. Haven't seen you ever, and I haven't seen this new bottle. Yeah, thank you. It's good. It's I only just recently got it. And I haven't like officially debuted or anything. I don't know if I'm going to. I've just kind of been using it. How do I get up there? Oh, I have to go from that side. Okay. So beautiful. Thank you! On the lamppost, or is that on the... Okay, that is. I thought I hit the wall behind it. I'm actually trying to decorate this one nicely. Because I guess the cheaty way would be what I was doing, which is just throw lights everywhere. Also been on my Infinity Nikki grind. Oh, let's go! It's a good thing that you left it. I think when you left it in the middle, it was like unplayable. So when they released it on Steam, it was not good. For some reason, I thought that goddamn log was a bear. And I got scared, even though all of the animals in this game are our townsfolk and they're nice. I was like, oh shit, there's a bear that's gonna attack me. And that's not even from a game that I've played recently or anything. I was just scared for no reason. There we go. Okay, let me up here. Hey. Can I go here? I can't. Okay, back this way. But how has it been? Have you gotten any new cute outfits yet? Oh my god, there is ice skating. Oh! That's so much money. You looking for Noelle? Because I know where they are. Or are you glitched? Are you bugged? You okay? What's going on? Okay, never mind. Goodbye. Look for a banner, lost all your saves. Oh, that's rough. I'm so sorry. Did I? Are you guys broken or something? Shit. Enjoying this game. I don't know how the story goes. I have not progressed the story because I have been taking too long decorating things. So I honestly don't know. The beginning is really cute. But then I don't know if you how much you want to know, but like this is the beginning. But Dad's like, okay, go to town, decorate stuff. And then it was like, okay, the more you progress in the game, you'll unlock story as you decorate. And I have not unlocked more story. So I don't think I've progressed enough to unlock more story. Where am I? Oh, this is right here. Oh, okay, wait. So how do I get up there then? Back here. What'd you get? Skeleton! No? Maybe I do have to jump from over there. Oh, or maybe it's this. I'm not trying to. No, you're good. Don't worry. You never have to worry about spamming. I love chatting. And I haven't seen you in so long. So I'm so happy that you're here. You never have to apologize for spamming. You're good. And thank you for the daily. Is it a light bringing? That's so fancy. Thanks for picking a narrative and me. Thank you, Cozy. AAA recovers on repeat. I only have like 2. It would be a really boring repeat. Where are your songs, huh? Mister? I do want to do more song covers. For now. Yeah, for now. For now I have 2. This one... Are they on Spotify? Otherwise, I'll have to set up my audio splitting so that it doesn't kill me with copyright. Spotify is using upload. Oh, seriously? What the hell? Wait, that's so shit. Actually, I've not heard about that. That's crazy. You don't feel ready? Yeah, you just gotta do it. I feel ready. I'm just lazy as shit. Oh, V mentioned. Oh, that's not good. That actually sucks. I'll do a second one later. With like a little bit of dingle. A lot of dingle. Well, let's hope YouTube doesn't do that. Like, start doing it. Otherwise, it's time to become a SoundCloud rapper. Woo! My astigmatism with this game is going brr. They are really like foggy anyway. I'm honestly just like unblurring, or not unblurring, unfocusing my eyes so that they're blurry. And looking at it, it's so pretty. Oh. Okay, wait. Like that. There we go. One idea. Oh my god, this put it bad. Introducing Clarissa 2 better than it. I thought Clarissa was dead! Soon I have big plans and ideas. I just need to get a trio together, but unlike you three, it's not for a music collab. Oh? That's interesting. Can you give any hints? Can you spill any secrets? To revive the PC. Oh, I've been pixelated. I'm in 360p now. Oh, I never did that lamppost. There we go. Yeah. Astigmatism go brrr. Clarissa will die when I say she can die. I thought you said the Clarissa project was over. Is that not Clarissa dying? Stella's dream became my dream too. Aww. What you mean by that? Downtown. We did it. New map location. Oh no, there's so much money. Hold on. I want to go in first person. I want to go in third person. Stella, have you ever had a dream? Because it's mine now. I'm stealing it. Yeah, I think Stella forgot. I'm not gonna lie. Looking at that one, I think Stella
Hey.
forgot.
Hi.
Hi! Oh! This is what the money is for! Let's go! I'm so rich. I keep on forgetting that I actually have candy canes. I should use them more. Thank you.
Hey, it's the Light Kit. I really appreciate you decorating the place. I was gonna do it, but we've got a bunch of orders and I've been repainting the shop and trust me, I'm busy. Ring the bell if you need anything. We've got cakes, cookies, candy canes, caramel apples, donuts, macarons, toffee, fudge, bûche de Noël, lemon squares, baklava, beignets, strudel, pain au chocolat, creme brulee, tiramisu, millefeuille, cannolis. What else? What else? Oh, here, try this. They came out perfect. Kinda cute, right? I'll give you some extra in case you want to leave them around town.
Oh! She has so many things. She just kept going. Holy. Okay, wait. We should try these. Where are they? Oh, okay. Yeah! They're massive! Literally taller than me. Literally taller than me. Let's go! I can make these big too. I love what it looks like when you throw them. Ah. So you're gonna upgrade Clarissa again. To open a certain establishment for all sorts of talents. Is it to be the cat lady from Aristocats and let all the cats of Paris in my house? They are cute! Where are the other ones? I still have nothing in this tab. Those are just those ones. Okay. Oh no, everything else I bought went. Wait. Does this mean I had opportunity to buy things before and missed it? Oh my god, there's rainbow ones. We'll leave the rainbow ones like really small. And just put a ton of them around. You know what? Yeah, that can stay. It's fine. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, the house. How big is this? It's smaller than I was expecting. But it's cute. Oh, okay. No more third-person camera. Open a nerd cafe, play baits, skateboards to borrow, and art anywhere. Stella's dream was to open a cafe where you can both donate or trade art you like. Oh, that sounds so cute. Like, actually, IRL cafe? Why are you so big? Why are you... Holy... Oh. Oh. He's behind me, isn't he? Look at the shadow! My god! Wait, I can block this entire section. Make sure there's nothing here. Okay. It's like bounces for a club. Spooky Shadow, yeah. This is like a whole new villager. This is literally— wait, there was a person here, wasn't there? Uno momento.
Neighbor?
Hello.
Howdy, Avery. Avery, I have something really important to tell you. You do not want to look behind you. There's a— you don't want to know. You don't even want to know.
How's little Bean doing?
Doing
Hey, have you
good.
tried something from Frida's? Because I might have to. I just might
Yeah.
have to get a cookie.
I don't know if you want a cookie, Avery. I think the cookie's gonna come to you, actually.
What's going on? How's little Bean doing?
Awesome. Okay. Let me get my lights back. And we can start doing this. Why Avery staring into my— I don't think Avery's the one staring into your soul. Well, they kind of both are. Oh, hello!
Hi, Bean. Hello.
It's Ruby again!
Hi.
I think Stella's dream is awesome. I would like to see it become a reality. Yeah! That sounds so cool! You're telling me a gingerbread this match? That's crazy. Goose, you can't say that out loud. Goose, you can't say that out loud. That's—
Hey, Bean, what are
you can't do that.
doing? I'm lighting up the whole town.
I am lighting up the whole town.
Kelly makes the most beautiful bouquet. Can we make hot cocoa later?
We would, but you're lactose intolerant.
I love hot cocoa.
That's so cute! Oh my god! Can we make hot cocoa later? We would, but you're lactose intolerant. I love hot cocoa!
Hey, do you want to go to the bakery
Aw.
later? Hey, do you want to go to the bakery later?
Hey, Bean, what are you doing?
Everyone really wants to go to the bakery that I've already been to.
Whole town.
I'm a trendsetter. Her voice— Ruby is so cute. Lies, gingers are not real. Hope it's 3 AM and dying in a month. So I won't have to write an apology. Gosh, what the hell did you do? Oh my god, please, get me up here. I asked what the hell did you do, but if it's something that Clarissa did, you're also responsible, just so you know. There's a tram here? Why is this here? Where do you go? Where are you from? Where's your house? What? That's crazy. Bring it in.
Hi. Hi.
Would you loosen up? Would you hold me? Bring it in. It's a really good game. It's so cute. Ruby is adorable and lactose intolerant. Hehe. We're gonna eat more food, sleep more sleep, then maybe clean. Awesome! Thank you so much for coming by, Cozy. Have a good one! Okay, let me run this tree. No!
Hi, Bean.
No, my string! Please! Free me! No! No, my string! No! It's fine. You know what? We'll just decorate this as well. It'll make it look like it was part purpose. Full chair reach, yeah, because I was supposed to decorate a tree. Okay, tech time. Clarissa actually checks the responses against Twitch TOS and will deny requests that violate. Will redo responses that she made that violates. Ask me why. I think I know why you had to do that, but just in case, who's what happened? I have access to another interior. Go away if you have motion sickness. This is what happens when they let me inside! Yeah!
Hi.
What is this decorating? Oh wait, can I go back to old places? Hold on. I gotta show you something. I wonder if I'll crash. That's how bad it was. It was actually affecting my game. Now that I'm back and has to load everything back in, I wonder if I'll crash. So much someone asked to DM. Oh, something actually happened? Is your goal to make a fucking jungle?
I already did that.
There's a little loading bar behind me. I don't know if you can see it, but the game's trying. Hey guys, the game's been trying. I think if this loads and we leave, I don't think I can ever return here again. Oh. Anyway, nice house, right? Ignore that. Nice house, right? I'll just go here so that we can check out the roof. This is why it's taking so long to load. This is just the roof. Like, that's not enough lights, right? That's not enough lights. I've left this really nice, like, candy cane trail, so we're just gonna follow this inside. Awesome. Ignore everything you're seeing on the sides, it doesn't matter. We're just gonna talk to this guy first. Because...
Oh, you coming to get my house?
Right? You coming to get my
Nice
house?
work, Bean. I want you to try to make my house look as bright as possible.
So
that
he
Santa
said
can
bright
see
as
it. I asked
possible,
him
so
for
that
a
Santa
really
can see
expensive
him.
gift this year.
Because he asked for a really expensive gift this year. So here's his house. And I was asked to do this. I feel like this is a fire hazard. Probably, if you're upstairs, you're not coming down. These are stairs. You have this door. At least I got rid of that door behind there. I don't know if you can even see it anymore. There's a door behind there. There's also a door behind there. There's also a door behind there.
Hello.
There's also a door there. You get one door in this house and it's that one. No stairs. It's real good! See? So compared to this, the other one's like nothing. Right? Like, we can't get as bad as that. Whatever we do, we've already done the worst. What do you think of what I've sent you? It's fucking crazy. I think I know who that was too. Wait, you can go into her house? Oh. Whose house? I'm lost. There are some houses that have like open doors that you can go into. If the door's open, you can go in. I thought that sheep was like the second level. Yeah, so we went into her house first, and then we saw her in town again. That was Ruby! That was Ruby's house! And Trip. We saw them downtown. Yeah. You're already there, oh, I am already there. Alright, third person mode. What is this? Okay. There's more... I see money up there. Wait. Wait. Money, 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 money. How do I get there? Oh my god, there's a fence. Everything's a fence. The fence can't stop me. Is that a hedge? We gotta go first person for this. We gotta go first person for this.
Hi, Clarissa.
Alright, it's like breadcrumbs. Okay. Alright, not there. Okay. Oh, this is way bigger than I was expecting. Hello? Is this a get to the end of the maze situation, or is this a get to the middle of the maze situation? Because I'm in the other corner, I think. It might be a get to the middle situation. Also, thank you for the hydrate and posture check. I have lychee sake that I'm sipping on. So let me drink more of that. I have circumnavigated the entire maze. Alright, let's change to the white lights. Okay, that's nothing. So it's probably that other path back here. Nope, not that one. This one. The one all the way at the back. Oh shit! I've got full cheer reach, but I'm just trying to navigate the maze. Oops. Yeah, we've decorated your town. Only in here, though. Yeah, this one. Yes! We did it! Can I just use this to get out? Thank God. Nice! Well, I guess none of the town needs decorating anymore. I didn't get striked on my main account, but Clarissa has already had to appeal to Twitch. Some reported her as botting. Isn't she marked as a bot to Twitch? Or was that your goose bot? I thought Clarissa was marked as a bot, like, properly. Alright, how do I get to the roof over here, though?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, Gooseball was marked, Clarissa isn't. Okay.
This is a really kind thing you're doing. The patients here are going to be so happy.
Man, oh. I was just gonna move on, but now there's actually people. Okay, let's go to pediatrics.
Hey. Hi.
Hi!
Thank you for decorating.
You're welcome!
Christmas.
Merry Christmas! Oh wait, no. I'm gonna give you rainbow lights. And you also get that guy. And a bowl of cookies. Yeah! Oh, it's so cute. How do you feel about the... Oh. There we go. What's that? You can no longer press E to interact. Hold on. Can I get you to turn around? How's that? Oh, okay, never mind. Goodbye. I can no longer interact with him either. Twitch wanted code access. Oh, yeah. I remember you saying you fought with Twitch about that. Oh my god, we can see it from here! Oh, it's so cute! Oh, that's adorable. I think I get up from here. And then jump there and climb this. I can try that. Alright, what's this one? Hello! So sorry, I can't press E on you. Alright, on air. Oh sh. Oh! They're, okay, quick. Make it fast. They're live. Alright, that good? Alright, goodbye. It's almost 1 AM! Oh my god! Oh, I'm so sorry for keeping you up so long! Good night, have a good one! Thank you so much for stopping by! Sleep well! Bye. Popcorning. Oh, up. I'm so sorry for stamping on your roof while you're on there. I just want money. It's just a semi-irresponsible adult. Hey, Goose is an irresponsible adult. So honestly, if anyone should be judging... Oh, we can't see it from outside. It's so cute. You're an adult? I mean, you would be allowed to use social media in Australia. Okay. How do I get onto the other side, though? I wish to parkour. Shit. Wait, why do I have so many hops? Why am I hops so majestic? Shit. I think I go on the other side. Oh! Wait, maybe I go around the entire... Does this pipe go around the entire thing? Ah, okay. I'm so sad that I'm like barely gonna be on there. Actually, maybe that's not a bad thing. The Clarissa files. Maybe I need to be in third person again for this. I cannot see where I'm going. Ah! I'm so bad. Why am I so bad? Okay, we're going third person. Hey, this game's about clicking and putting lights down, okay? It's not supposed to be a platformer. What the hell was that movement being? Okay, okay. This. Round it. Go over here. Alright, stop running. Just round it like a normal bean. Okay. Let's go! Is there anything else up there? I put random decorations here for no reason. Okay. We're so decorated, aren't we? The glint of that one light through there. Awesome! Oh! Hello! I've seen you a lot.
Oh, you're here!
Hey, I'm
Hello.
here!
Thanks so much for coming by. I'm Holly, and this is my home.
Yeah! Hi, Holly!
I'm having a little Christmas party, but the place is looking a little unfestive, you know? Would you mind sprucing it up a bit?
You can absolutely spruce it up a bit.
And last thing, if you don't mind, could you get the neighbor's house too? Wouldn't want to outshine them. It's a time for giving.
The neighbor's house too?
There's
Absolutely.
adorable gardens down the road, but the gate might be locked and I've misplaced the key. That's a shame. You'd love it. Can I get you a drink? Some of the hard stuff.
Sir,
I'm teasing. Not until 5th grade.
Not until 5th grade. Oh my god. Is there actually a
Lots
key
to
that I
do,
can find?
lots to do. That's what I love about hosting. It's bam, bam, bam. Aaron set up, multitasking, cooking, cleaning, and then you blink and the night's over. But it's worth it to be around friends and family like this. Do you think there's
True.
another
That's how
option?
my Christmas was. Bam, 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 bam. And then everyone left, and then it's like, oh, I'm dead now.
I'm having a little Christmas party, but the
Okay.
place is looking a little unfestive.
I
you know?
do want to
Would
see
you
if I can
mind
find
sprucing
a
it up
key
bit?
somewhere. So we'll do a run over for our house, maybe. Oh, I can actually go upstairs this time. Can I go in these? No. Look, I got the stoop. Okay. Get my rainbow light treatment. Ooh, that actually is not half bad. Okay. Christmas tree has been Christmasified. That annoys me. Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. Evan, you're hosting, so everyone's gonna be in here. So we'll put everything here for you. Is that releasing radiation? Why is it glowing green like that? That's concerning. Should probably be like, it's vintage. Yeah, it's radium. Nice.
Oh, you're here!
I am. I'm also gone. I need to figure out how to get up on your roof. Oh. Wait, I don't even need the key. I can just jump it. Whoa. This is such a cute... Hello? This is such a cute garden. That's so much money. Let's go. Yes! Flashbang Central. Here's something on the Clarissa list. Does Goose top you? For response, you may ask. The Twitch is not. You said live on air. Oh my god. You know what? It's not as bad as what you DM'd me, but holy fuck. Are the Clarissa files gonna be redacted? Or are they gonna be redacted with like the rectangles that you can just paste into a notes app and see? That's fucking crazy, by the way. Fuck no, I'm shaming all of y'all.
Hi.
Let's do it!
You're coming to decorate my house? Oh, isn't that just the sweetest?
You're so welcome,
are you
Paul. Your neighbor
decorating
asked me
next?
to.
Ooh, can you put up some pink ones? You're coming to decorate my house? Oh,
I
isn't
have
that
pink?
just the sweetest?
What do I have that's pink? This is it's red. You want some? I guess. Here, have some of these too. Okay, there's a pink one. I'm so sorry. I'm not getting. That's crazy placement. That's crazy placement. I'm not getting it anymore. You know what? Yeah, sure. That can stay. It's pink and he wanted pink. That's what you're getting, Paul. I'm so sorry. Anyway. I didn't remove the test sheet that was also logged. Only non-testing questions and answers will be released. Let's go! Shame him!
That looks great.
Shame these bitches, because I know I didn't do as much crazy shit as they did. Did I do some? Maybe. Do I remember? No. Full cheer reached. Hey, I'm still doing it. Oh. Now why would you do that? There we go. Wow. I've actually decorated his house. And not... What is this line in the air? And not hers. Oh? Escape freedom? Nope. Never mind. Invisible wall. I should put some decorations on the outside of her house, right? Like... We should. I just need to figure out how to get up there anyway. Okay, this trampoline's doing nothing. There we go. Hold on. Okay, Paco. Paco! Oh, more money! Let's go! I'm hunting for it. I know it's up here. Okay. Some decorations on top.
Hello.
Hello! Some decorations here for you. Up there as well. Anyway. There we go. Your house has been decorated. You're welcome. Onwards we go. Get me out of first person. No, get me out of cinema mode. Yeah, that was so fun. This coin's up there. How? Here to here to here. And here. Is there a room we can go in here?
Hey,
Hello.
Hi.
thank you so much for coming. Residents will have their door open if they'd like lights up, so feel free to enter any of those units.
Oh. I'm in the basement. Okay, so if they have the doors open, they want lights. You know what? The basement can have lights too. Why not? Why not? There we go. Send me up. Oh. Up again. Yeah. Hello. You would like some lights? I got you. Ooh. I got you. There we go. And money. Thank you. You know what? It's not stealing. It's payment for my services. I'll do it like this. Yeah, first person, why not? There we go. And next up!
Ooh, nice. That looks great. I mean, that looks great.
Hi! You're so welcome. Hold on, let me put some stuff on your tree.
Hi.
I love the kid response. It's so true. Like, you say something and they're just like, hi! Like, wow, that looks so nice! They're just like, hi!
Will this affect my utilities bill?
Yes.
Lots of letters to Santa this year. I still have to write mine. I don't know what to ask for yet.
You should ask for a lower
Will
utility
this
bill.
affect my utilities bill?
This will definitely affect your utilities bill. I hate to say it. This might affect your utilities bill just a little bit, especially if they're incandescent. We go now. True.
Hi,
Are these incandescent
Hi.
or LED?
Read anything good lately? Ever
Nope.
hear about the Bellflower ghost? Oh, you're too young for that.
Bellflower ghost? Are we in Bellflower? Is that where this is? Let me look at my map. I think we're in Bellflower. Oh, welcome to Bellflower. It's right here. Vic. Who are you? Oh!
Hi, kiddo.
Hi.
You're like me. Hello.
How you feeling?
Oh, they're a
I
doctor.
mean, that looks great. How you feeling?
No wonder they're asking how I'm feeling. Wait, doctors want to know how you're feeling. Why you're feeling. Hello? Why are you feeling, Bean? Okay. Can I go to the roof? Yes, I can! Money, 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 money. And they're making me taco for this. Money! This is so cute. Let me up. Oh. That was so vaguely scary. I was like, I'm gonna fall off the edge. Oh, this is a nice unit thing, like place though. Like, little hangout spot up here. They literally have a fireplace on the roof. Like, this is adorable. I love that. Anyway, where are we going? Main Street! Interesting. Okay. First things first. Money. Haven't I been here? Have I not been here? Maybe it's just that gate, like, to the lake out there or whatever layout looks familiar. I'll go to church! No!
I miss
Cemetery. Oh, you know what? You can have some. I need tab. You can have some house. Oh. There we go. Oh. Okay, there we go. It's like no one's ever been there. Okay, third person. I thought being in first person would make it easier to put houses in the cemetery, but apparently not.
Hey.
Hi guys!
Hello. Hey.
Hello.
If it isn't the hardest worker in Bellflower.
Yeah, it is.
How's it going?
Good.
How's your dad holding up?
His knee is still broken.
If it isn't the hardest worker in Bellflower.
Hey, Bean. Good to see ya. We're usually here after work.
Although we've got to set up for the festival pretty soon.
Oh, they have a festival. That's cute. I'm gonna turn this music down a bit. Okay, there we go.
So, are you this wild about Halloween too?
More wild about Halloween, so I think I would have actually wanted to do it.
That outfit is so cute. You keeping warm out there?
Mm-hmm.
Just wait until springtime. That's
I think
my
I
time
got
to
guilted
shine.
into putting
I've
these
got
lights up, I'm
big
not gonna
plans.
lie.
Big plans. Hey, Bean. Good to see ya. We're usually here after work.
Although we've got to set up for the festival pretty soon.
I feel like Dad fully, like, child labored me into putting these lights up. But you know what? Fair. That's why you have kids, right? Like, teach them independence and how to do the chores.
You've done a great service here.
Hi.
Yes, sir. I'm just gonna steal your money real quick. Don't mind me. Okay.
Hello there. You must be Bean. I've been hearing all about the work you've been doing. It means so much to me in the town. In fact, we wanted to give you something on behalf of Bellflower.
Oh. New decoration. Oh my god, wait, I can use this right now. Is it here? Oh, there it is. Oh, camera, please, camera. Holy shit. We're just gonna go first person.
Beautiful.
This is massive. Okay, hold on. Put a big one. Put a small one. Put an even smaller one. It's facing backwards. Put an even smaller one. Bit diagonal. There we go. Awesome. I can barely see with this. Half my screen is gone. There we go. Sweet. this. There. So close to cheer, and by that I mean barely halfway. How do I get up?
What's up?
Hi.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, are you coming to decorate the station? That's awesome. I'd
Oh,
say
it's
you
a
could
fire
use the ladder,
station.
but that feels dangerous for a child.
Don't worry, I have a goddamn arm on me. You see this? Leo, I would not even worry.
I like what you
In
did
fact, you
there.
might want to hire me when I'm older.
Oh, that's neat.
Okay. Oh, I can jump up there. I can do it. Oh, if I don't fall off. There is a little bit of step physics. Oh. No, wait. Let me up now! Let me up. Sweet. Anything up here? No. Might as well decorate while we're at it. Yes! Height! Oh, that's how you get to this one. Awesome. Get in! Maisuki! What's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? What's happening? How you doing? How's your Christmas? Should do this like bridge pattern across. Yeah. Let's have a look. Yeah. I got drunk at the yeah. Nice. You just woke up and now you have to do Marvel Rival? Yeah, Drunk's fault. Blame him. But you like Marvel Rival. Isn't that good? Isn't it good? Sorry, save me. No, you agreed to it. Actually, you had to wake up for it. In fact, so you set an alarm for it. In fact, I'm assuming. So, actually, you've fully walked into it this yourself.
Bean, it's me, Avery.
Drunk called you.
You remember me? You did such a great job. The whole town owes you one, really.
Yeah. But you answered. Drunk called, but you went, yeah.
Hi.
You see the lights flicker. Guys, it's not me. Oh, wait, I don't have a cheer meter. I don't have to do this. Hi. I can't. Oh, okay, no mind. I can't press on you. Can the girl complain? No. Not allowed. Wait, I can't press E on anyone. If I change what I'm holding, no. If I put this down. Enter cinematic mode. Cancel this. E. E. Okay. This is vaguely an issue.
Bean, come here. I have something for you.
Hello.
Just got these in today. Had to set a few aside for my most loyal customer. On the house, I figure you've earned it with all your hard work.
Flickering lights! Let's go!
Oh, and check it out. I present to you the PWAP, the Portable Wearable Autonomous Power Quartz. Check it out. It is toasting. It just
Get a
takes
bucket
a couple
and a
minutes.
mop. That's a PWAP. I used to be a decoration expert like you, then I took a Christmas light to the knee. Did you know that our dad used to be a decoration expert like us, then he took an arrow to the knee? Oh. I don't think I'm supposed to be able to see my mouse. Okay. Let's try out these new lights. I don't know if I like that the one in my hand is like trying to commune with me. We can probably decipher this Morse code, like when they're down, they're fine. When they're in my hand, they're going crazy. I might just stick to my usual rainbow ones. What song is this? Okay. Now. Now wait. Okay. Can I interact with you now? I can't. No. Let me through. I see a coin. What am I supposed to be doing here? Alright. Give me the PWAP. Give me the PWAP. Please. I just want to do things. Please. Oh. Am I just supposed to put more things down? Where am I? What's happening? Not the flickering lights. Fuck the flickering lights. I hate to alarm everybody, but the entire town is flickering, and it's not just the flickering lights. Thank you for the tithe. You forgot. How could you? Save game. Alright, menu.
This is just lovely.
She started talking to me. Continue. Alright. It's fine. Okay. Nope, not that.
Chuck should be so proud of you. Hey, have you tried something from Frida's? Because I might have to.
Awesome.
I love what you've done with the place.
You're so welcome, person.
Hi.
Lots of letters to Santa this year. I still have to write mine. I don't know what to ask for yet.
And
What are
you
you decorating
were
next?
Paul.
Bean, you wouldn't believe how many more people have been to the bakery since you decorated. You're the best.
It'd be so nice if you could look at me while you're talking.
The whole town is radiant. The festival looks great.
I feel like I can finally breathe. So much work.
Hey, B, what are you doing? I'm like
Decorated.
whole town.
Yeah, lighting up the whole town.
Dolly makes the most beautiful bouquet.
Bean, this is just lovely.
You're welcome.
Oh, this looks great. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's so nice when everyone talks to you.
Whatever you do, don't get your lights gummed up in the windmill. Turn the whole electricity off for the whole town.
Okay, heard.
Oh man, Marco looks great. It's nice to get out of the sewer and stretch my legs once in a while. You did a really great job.
Thank you. Who are you? Can I not? Okay, never mind. They don't wanna. They don't wanna interact. Alright.
What's up?
Hello.
Are you a person? No.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
This is what's up. Like goodbye.
Hi, Bean.
Hi.
You have a
Hi.
future in design.
Thank you.
This is just lovely.
You.
Keep it up, bud.
Thank you, Scott.
Hi, kiddo.
Hi.
How you feeling?
Good.
That looks great.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
That looks great.
Yeah. Hi, Noelle.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Keep
holidays.
up the good work.
Thank you.
Oh, what a sight to see.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. It brings a tear to my eye.
Back in Deutschland, we have the most
Everyone's so
wunderbar
cute.
Christmas markets. Have you? Yeah, fine.
I love that.
Bean!
Oh, here.
I have something for you. Just got these in today. Had to set a few aside for my most loyal
No, not the
customers.
flickering
On
lights.
house, I figured
No.
you have earned it with all your hard work.
Ugh.
Oh, and check it
Thanks.
out. I present to you the PWAP, the Portable Wearable Autonomous Power Port. Check it out. It is toasting. It just takes a couple minutes.
Oh. Goodbye, me. Hold on, my camera's returning to my body. Okay, there we go.
Hey Bean, you ready to decorate the tree?
Yeah.
Yep.
Alright, have fun. Stop by the booth and let me know when you're done. Oh, alright.
Alright, test. Alright, everyone, gather round. Bean's gonna decorate the tree.
Hell yeah, I am. Alright. What? Should we do a fancy little spiral this time? Instead of just going up and down. Okay. We'll double helix this thing. Oh, this is a big tree. Maybe I should do ye good old up and down. I don't like the fact
Hey,
that
that's
it's
looking great.
flashing.
Come over to the booth when you're done.
Yeah! We don't need anything else. We just need rainbow. Stop flashing, please. I'm so sorry. On his head. Okay. Let's go.
Hey, you all done?
Yep.
Yep.
Wonderful. All right.
Yeah!
Hey everyone, what do we think of Bean's lights? That's what I'm talking about. All right, Avery, bring in that star.
Hey guys.
Woohoo! It's so cute! Oh.
No! Oh no!
Look! There's something wrong with the tower!
Shame.
Oh.
Bean, it's for you.
Dad, what's wrong?
Bean, are you okay? I've been clearing snow off the driveway so I could get over to you, but something broke in the tower. It looks like the power's out across town. I won't be able to fix it until morning. Just hang tight. I'm coming to get you.
But I wanted you to see the light.
I know, buddy. I'm sorry. Look, I'll get there as soon as I can clear a path. Just hang tight. Just stay inside. Try and keep warm. Is Avery there? See if you can get a hold of her. Stay with her. I'll be there.
Bean, what are you doing?
Power stuff.
Oh.
She took the PWAP.
I don't think this is good for a child. Oh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yes, it's my rainbow lights though. Not your way to the tower. Let's do that. In the person. This is so... Oh my god. Do I go here? Okay, actually, first person might be good. Oh my god. Okay. Come on, Bean. We got this. I'm surprised that the pot can light this much. Or have this much power. Yeah! Oh! Bean!
What are you doing here? I told you to stay put.
I'm gonna fix the lights.
No, it's not safe. I can fix it in the morning. They're just lights.
They're not just lights.
Bean, wait!
Oh,
Not on my
Bean.
watch.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. this way. I'm just gonna follow the money. Oh my god, Bean! Bean is insane though. Okay, we're going. We're going. Stay like this. Rip Bean! What do you mean, Rip Bean? Bean's not dead. Why am I running backwards? Why I do this in fast person? Dude, I'm being so goated. Bean's goated. Oh my god. Shit, I fell. Hold on. I'm gonna see where the platform is. Did you not find the cemetery? Like next to the church? Kind of. Alright, I got the money. Oh my god, that windmill is going so fast. This is scary. Holy shit. Oh my god! Oh Bean! Bean! A tricycle!
Oh, my little jelly bean. One day you'll be proud of the person you were today. You chose to be brave.
Oh, Bean! Oh shit. Oh damn! Yeah, Bean! Look at all my lights.
She did it!
Well, how about that?
I feel like you should not be saying that about your sub 7-year-old daughter, who is like in the most dangerous goddamn situation. Oh fuck. So Bean like dies here, right? what? So everything here is like Bean's death dream. Because Bean's definitely dead. Bean's definitely dead, and this is like their fantasy. Like, this isn't real. This cannot be real. Holy fuck. Yeah, Bean! Hell of a fucking arm. Hell of a fucking throw. Holy shit.
Is that Bean?
Oh, bitch. Slow down. Holy fuck.
Oh no.
The little...
Okay.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
Oh
And I
no.
was like, no, don't do it. And I was like, I gotta do it.
There's a
The
theory
people
that Bean
need
died when her mom died,
and
and this
I
is a
jumped
purgatory of
across
sorts.
the beams.
Oh.
It was like at least 50 feet. The wind was going.
Here's my theory. Bean died going up that mountain. And then everything after that point is fake. Because Bean is not surviving that shit. Oh my god.
Tis the season to be jolly. Fa la 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 la.
Aww. It's so cute though. It's so so cute though. Hi, Bloody. Thanks for coming in. Our game just finished. Welcome to the credits. Oh. Better. Yes. Money. I'm probably gonna send you over to Neri after this. Money and right back to bed. Oh my god, that was so fun. What is this? Extra chip. Does it say on the map where I am? Yeah, because there's places I haven't done yet. Oh, we raid Neri? Yeah. My game is done. I think that was it. I had credits and everything, so I think this is just extra you can decorate for fun and collect stuff. Awesome! Thank you guys so much for coming! Let me / raid. It's small game, what the fuck? See how big I am? Hold on. See how big I am? I'll get ya. Anyway, / raid. Ranks 0. Did you small than Kirby? What the fuck? That bitch is like 2 feet. I'm bigger than 2 feet. What the fuck, man? Siren shot my dog, ripped me. I love it. 50 centimeters! Buddy, what the fuck? 50 centimeters! 50! I'll get ya. What's the wrong one? I'll get ya. Anyway, I'm sending you guys off to Neri. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you for coming at the end, Bloody. Thank you, Goose, for being here. You should also get some rest. And have a good one. Neri is playing Elden Ring. I had to remember that. Off the top of my memory, Elden Ring. And I might come back to this game and finish doing the decorating, but maybe not, because apparently it had story and apparently it's over. So, we'll find out. Later, now tier list. Ah, okay. Nice. Okay, thank you so much for coming. Bye bye.